welcome to the DIATC Annual Summit of 2020. My name is Andrew, and I will be taking you to and through today's event. You can move to the next slide, please. First, let's take a look at the agenda. As you can see, we've got a lot to go through today. First, we're going to start off with this welcome, which will last about 5 minutes. Then we will move into our teen council presentations given by three teen councils, including myself. Then we will move into our panel discussion, in which you will get a chance to ask questions to each of the teen councils. Then we move into a short 5-minute break, and stick with us for a Kahoot and art making activity to follow. Move to the next slide, please. Next, let's quickly go over how to participate in the chat. Make sure you're signed into YouTube with your email address, and then type away your sentence or question in the live chat box. Next slide, please. And also, feel free to share about the event on social media. And if you do, use the hashtag DIA18Council. Next slide, please. The first presentation is given by me for the Teen Council, the DIATC, or the Detroit Institute of Arts Teen Council. Next slide, please. First up, what are our goals? Our goals as a teen council are to plan cool, fun, inclusive, and meaningful events for teens. We want to give teens that go to the DIA a place to create and feel safe within the DIA and included. Planning the events is to help us do just that. Our next goal is to gain work experience, leadership, and team building skills. We want to gain these teamwork and leadership skills because they are very important in today's society and workforce. We want to start building these skills now so we're ready for whenever we go into new horizons. And our third goal is to make friends and grow the DIATC. We aim to make friends and along the way grow the DIATC so that we can make more events for more teens to feel included in the DIA. The next slide, please. First up is our first event, the mental health workshop that featured tie-dye and collage making. This event was created for teens to talk about mental health, but also have fun creating tie-dye apparel and magazine cutout collages. While this event did have some issues, one being some tie-dye apparel was tie-dye resistant, this event had a really good turnout, and as our first round helped us get our name out there and let everyone have some fun. The next slide, please. Our other event that we've done so far is Creative Conversations. This is a current series of videos that we have out now due to COVID-19 and now the new virtual world. And these videos feature conversations with teen artists and one of our own. Our first video featured 2 more teen artists and one of our own talking about the BLM movement and how it affected their art making. And look out for a new video we have coming out soon on what it's like to be an artist in an academic-driven society. Next slide, please. What have we learned this past year? Well, we've gotten 2 quotes from 2 of our own. The first one being, I've developed planning skills and I've also learned how to be professional as a result of being in the Teen Council. Something as simple as getting dressed for work and looking professional has already taught me more than any other jobs have. I've also experienced a higher level of planning than I ever learned how to do in school, student council, other jobs, etc. And our other quote, I've gained a lot more experience with organizing events, working with groups of people, and getting used to a job in general. I've learned what goes on behind the scenes in event planning in museums, especially things I've never realized before, like the evaluations and the planning that goes into evaluating an event, as well as planning the event itself. Move to the next slide, please. Next is what has our teen council learned about leadership? We've learned a lot about leadership. We've learned what exactly it takes to be a cultural and artistic leader in today's society. And we learned that in order to be a leader, you must work with others, get your hands dirty, and help out wherever you can in order for everyone to be successful. Next slide, please. And that just about wraps up our presentation. And for our next presentation, would like to welcome Kimberly and Sharon from the Markham Teen Arts Council in Ontario, Canada.
Hi everyone.
Hi everyone. My name is Kimberly.
Yeah, so my name is Sharon, and we are both the co-chairs of Markham Teen Arts Council, as Andrew mentioned, from Markham, Ontario, Canada. So just to start off with, first and foremost, thank you so much to DIA for inviting us and for hosting this conference, particularly virtually, even with quarantine. It's really nice to see people from all, like pretty much everywhere, like from New York to Detroit to Markham, which is a relatively small city on Ontario, connect and have the ability to interact with each other virtually when it might not have been possible without quarantine. So I guess in that aspect, quarantine really has opened us opportunities for us to take arts to a new level and even transcend barriers that would usually exist physically. So it's really incredible to see teens from like different places also passionate about both community involvement and arts who all really believe in the merit and the sort of skills that you can gain from pursuing your passions and bring them to other people. Slide please.
So just a little bit about us and some insight on who we are. Markham Teen Arts Council was founded in 2008, and we are a team made up of youth who provide teens within the community valuable opportunities to explore all forms of art. Next. So some of our goals include being able to foster and promote a more dynamic local youth arts environment for those within our community, and also to advocate and support teen artists, performers, and more through different events and activities that we host. Next slide, please.
Yeah, so just about our parent council. So Markham Arts Council is the predominant arts council in Markham, and their mission is to build a stronger, more diverse art community, not only in Markham, but generally in the GTA, because Markham is a part of the GTA, and our attitudes towards arts also influences teens everywhere in the GTA. So we are the youth division of Markham Arts Council. We were established in 2008. Essentially, we are one of their satellite committees that are geared specifically towards teens. Other satellite committees include Markham Movies or Lava Lab, which are sort of for different purposes, all arts related. What Markham Arts Council does for us is that they provide us with support, funding, and resources to host our events and our initiatives, and they are our parent council. So we're really grateful to them because without them, we would not exist. Slide, please.
So just to summarize what Markham Teen Arts Council did last year, we hosted events such as Word Up, Solstice, 24-hour film challenge, a workshop series, and also had outreach ambassador applications. Next slide, please.
Yeah, so just to elaborate on Kimberly's description of our events, our first event was Word Up, and it's actually still ongoing. So if you're in the GTA, please check that out. You can win a lot of cool prizes, from cash prizes of $100 to gift cards, etc., etc. Essentially, what Word Up is that it's an annual writing competition. So we have 3 different categories of poetry, short stories, and essay writing, all centered around a specific theme. You can check our website right now for this year's theme. It's an online writing contest held in October, and it's, as I mentioned, it's currently ongoing, so that you should really check that out. I'm just saying. And last year, we had some cool prizes from Ferris Wheel Press, Smash Kitchen, and Next Door Restaurant. So another event that we held in 2019 that was pretty prominent was in December, and it was sort of a Christmas holiday themed event. It was called Solstice. It was a sort of semi-formal dance, like music art showcase night. We partnered with another youth organization also dedicated towards art called Platform for Youth Creativity. We hosted the event at a venue that we actually got for free due to a grant that for sort of like community service or just for community initiatives. We had a really great turnout of over 100 attendees, and we actually managed to fundraise over $2,000 for our charities in our community. So that was really cool, and essentially we got local performers to come perform and showcase their talent in their performing arts. We displayed visual arts and arts exhibition from local artists as well, and youth were able to come and just generally chill and have a fun time while appreciating all these different things from the community. We actually managed to host this event without spending a single dollar because we were sponsored by over 10 businesses and organizations, which are listed over here. So that was really cool and definitely a highlight of our sort of fiscal year in 2018. And this was our last in-person event before quarantine started, unfortunately. Slide, please.
So yeah, alongside Word Up and Solstice, these are a couple of other events that we hosted last year. For one, we hosted our annual 24-hour film challenge, which we will also host this year as well, so be on the lookout for that later within the year. As its name states, this event is a film challenge where groups have to create a film within 24 hours. Now, last year, kickoff was held in an online live stream in February, and during the live stream, teams were given a line, a prop, and a sound, which were needed to be implemented into their film. And then they were then given 24 hours to complete the film and submit it the next day. Now, the screening of the films were originally supposed to be in person. However, due to the pandemic, it was moved online. Now, even though COVID-19 happened, the event was actually still quite successful. We got a lot of attendees as well, and we were able to give out over $1,000 worth of prize money. So we're definitely still hosting it this year as well. Well, not this year, but next year within 2021, also around February. So be sure to check out our social media and our websites for more information and to be updated. And then another event and opportunity that we hosted was our Outreach Ambassador applications. Now, Outreach Ambassadors are general members of MTAC, and basically they volunteer with us for specific events and help us to plan and promote them. And they also receive volunteer hours in return. So last year, they were open for applications in November, and this year we actually also plan to do the same. So we're planning on setting out our applications very, very soon. So if you want to be more involved within the GTA and the arts community, or want to get to know a little bit more about MTAC and be a part of our group, then be sure to follow us at our Instagram at Markham Teen Arts, go to our Facebook, our website, or even sign up for our newsletter for more information. Next slide, please.
Yeah, so just to talk about, again, due to the extenuating circumstances this year, what did we actually learn? So I would definitely say one of the most important thing that we learned is that arts are not something that need materials to exist. They are something that exists innately within us. The urge to create and have artistic expression is really something that we carry, and we carry that within us no matter where we go. So that means that arts still had a lot of significance even in quarantine, even though they weren't a priority or a necessity, because they're important in sort of like adding color to our lives and making us indulge in our passions. So arts are definitely important no matter the circumstances, even in a virtual environment. For example, this wasn't mentioned in our previous slide, but MTAC also hosted some workshops that were conducted online through social media, where we essentially taught youth how to do calligraphy, how to sketch, and how to make origami, so 3 different artistic skills. So these workshops provided exposure for small businesses and local artists who we got to host the workshops. But they also gave youth a valuable distraction from quarantine and the opportunity to learn a new skill. And that really shows you sort of, I guess, art also, it helps you create the world that you want to actually live in. You can take that medium and expand it to be whatever you want to be. So as I mentioned, art is innate within us. Artistic ability isn't a self-autonomous thing, nor is it required to enjoy and appreciate art. You can enjoy art and you can partake in art, even if you aren't quote unquote like prodigious or talented at it. You don't have to be good at something to enjoy it. And art really gives you a medium for which to explore. And it's not necessarily linear in the sense that you're going towards a goal, but you're more so going towards the experience of doing that thing to begin with. You can glean a lot from that experience in terms of what it does for you, in terms of both your physical health and what you gain from pursuing something you're interested in. So another thing that we learned is that we should never think that something isn't feasible, because I guess even the proof of this conference and other things that we did this year are like against that. So despite the initial unrealism of hosting events like Solstice, which we thought was so unfeasible because it was so expensive to host, it actually ended up being really successful and turned out better than we actually imagined it to ever be. And again, we never thought we'd be able to host events in quarantine, but our events actually turned out pretty well. So again, like, don't be turned off by something seemingly unrealistic, because again, like, sounds cliche, but as long as there's a will, there's always a way. Yeah, next slide, please.
Now, what has MTAC learned about leadership within the council? We learned quite a bit. For one, we learned that a council really starts within, and that having a good leadership is akin to having a good motor that ensures the entire machine is able to run properly and smoothly. So being able to have good leadership, good leaders who are able to guide us in the right direction, and being able to help us whenever necessary really just helps everyone to be on track, be organized, be responsible for what they're doing, and it just helps everything to go swell. Another thing that we learned is that communication is also an extremely important trait that is needed to successfully run any team out there, including ours, including other art councils or any council in particular. And this became so prevalent and obvious when, the pandemic hit and everything went virtual. So for one, going virtual made it all the more difficult to create engagement, to lead discussions, to be able to communicate properly with the team. And we also learned that good communication isn't as important as the willingness to communicate. Sometimes we would stare at a screen and we'd be talking, and no one else would speak up. Their mics would be muted. So definitely, although communication itself is an important trait, if people aren't willing to communicate or collaborate or speak out and voice their opinions, then all communication itself is just, there's no point to it. So that and communication skills are very important to planning and just everything. Next slide.
Yep, so that pretty much wraps up our presentation. Please follow us on our social media at Markham Teen Arts, where we'll be posting a lot of new opportunities in our current ongoing contests. And again, thank you so much for listening to our presentation, and we look forward to seeing you at our events. And thank you to GIA for inviting us. It's really great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kimberly and Sharon. Our next presentation is from Nadia, a member of the Everson Museum's Teen Council in Syracuse, New York.
Hi, I am Nadia, like stated. I am a returning member of the Everson Teen Council, which is located in Syracuse, New York. This council has offered a very safe platform for teens to share their voice, work with other peers, and engage with a greater community. This council has also been running for 4 years and is led by Everson's Education Registrar, Caitlin Albright. Next slide, please. Here we have listed things that we do in the Everson on a weekly basis. And our goals, which one of them is that we learn about the different areas of museum work, as well as careers outside of the museum. We were visited by guest speakers to learn about different creative career options and how to utilize skills and knowledge. Our teen council has also curated an exhibition featuring the work of high school students from around the region. We decided on a theme, put out a call for art, and spoke with the Everson's curatorial team about the process. The exhibition was virtual this year due to COVID-19, but you can watch it on YouTube titled 2020 Everson Teen Arts Council Exhibition. Another thing that we did or goal that we have is that we engaged with our fellow council members in our small group activities, such as hands-on art making with drawing and clay, creative writing and journaling, and group discussion. My personal favorite is when we drew blind contouring drawings of each other. From learning about different careers, curating an exhibition, to creating bonds with fellow council members, the Everson Teen Council has explored many different areas of the art world. Before the Teen Council, I had no idea what kind of career I wanted to pursue, but getting to talk to different people each week from all different types of fields opened my eyes to all sorts of careers. ETAC introduced me to various possibilities that I wouldn't have been aware of without the council. Next slide, please. Our teen council also hosts one annual event, Teen Night, to coincide with our exhibition opening. In the past, this event has featured refreshments, live music, art activities, and guided tours of our exhibition. Due to COVID-19, we were unable to hold this event. Although we ended up having to finish the exhibition virtually, it was an experience like no other. Being a part of the process of curating the exhibit and having part to play behind an opportunity to allow others to broadcast their art makes it all that more meaningful. I love being able to listen to others' opinions and being able to express my own. We gave a voice to a community to express their thoughts through a way of art. We also had many different local volunteer opportunities dealing with the arts over the course of the year. For some meetings, past ETAC members would come back and discuss their college experience, what they're going to school for, and what they plan on doing after graduation. Other meetings, we talked to those that work in and outside the Everson, from graphic design, curating, maintenance, and those running their own art facilities. We also had guided tours where we learned and discussed different pieces of art and different forms of art. Next slide, please. Here we had not students, but council members that from past years. of the Everson Council give their kind of quotes on what they feel about what we've learned in the past year. One said, "It made me think more about the process of curating and how much of an impact it has on the way it is interpreted and viewed. I also learned a lot about working in the art field and all of the opportunities it has that could fit my interests for a future career." Another student said, "The team council has given me a broader understanding of museum operations and the art field in general. Being able to talk to art professionals has made a career in the arts seem possible." And then a third council member said, "I learned about a lot of different art-related careers that showed me that there's really a fit for any interest, but still an art career. Even though a lot of people with art careers don't actually make the art, what they do is still an art and is just as important and crucial to creativity." Next slide, please. Um, we were asked the question, "What have you learned about leadership within your council?" And we said, "Over the past year, being a part of the Everson Teen Council has taught me not only about leadership, but also how to efficiently work in a group. ETAC allowed me to express my opinions, learn how to give and take constructive feedback, problem solve, work under pressure, and many other skills. Everson taught me that leadership is not taking control and bossing others around. Good leadership is being able to work with others in a team, having to make tough decisions, and possessing good communication skills and listening skills." Next slide, please. Though our year was cut short by COVID-19, we are so proud of what we were able to accomplish despite the obstacles. Last year's cohort was offered the chance to join Teen Council again, and several students are taking the advantage of that while we also welcome new students for our virtual council for 2020 to 2021. If you are interested in following along, find us on Instagram at Everson Teens. Thank you, DIA, for the amazing opportunity.
And thank you, Nadia. I also wanted to say a big thank you to all the teen councils for these great presentations. Next up is our panel discussion where you guys will get an opportunity to ask all the teen councils some questions. All right, and now we will just wait for some to come in. And may I say, Markham, Kimberly, and Sharon, that solstice event looked awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
I was like, well, if I only lived in Ontario.
We do have a couple of people saying that you guys did a great job presenting, so everyone here.
Thank you to them.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Skylar.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. So nice. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, so we do have one question by Enoma. What did you guys do last year for solstice?
Kimberly, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. So last year for solstice, we had a lot of different. Is actually a part of our council, so
Yes.
how do you know? But last year for solstice, we hosted a lot of different performers, and they would sing on stage. It was basically a semi-formal where people attended.
Semi-formal, but it was better than the semi-formal that your school has. They played good music, and the DJ was our co-chair was the DJ, and he actually has a good music taste. We didn't only play top 40 music; they actually had a good music taste, and therefore was vibing. Okay, yeah, to continue.
Yeah.
Music really makes or breaks there, then. Oh yes, we have a question for Rupa for the DIA Teen Council. Did you guys ever find a Polaroid? I'm not sure what this is.
Polaroids. I don't know about any Polaroids. I don't remember. That may have been with the previous DIA Teen Council dealing with Polaroids, but I have not heard about any Polaroids that went missing. So I apologize for not knowing, but
Okay. Oh yes, and we have a question by test name for the Markham Teen Arts Council. How do you guys contact all the big companies to sponsor you?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So Kimberly and last year, we were both external affairs coordinators. That means that we were the ones doing the contacting. So I think we're pretty qualified to talk about this. So we have an MTAC account. So we have like an organizational account. So it's markhamteenarts@gmail.com. We're thinking about getting a G Suite, but like for now, it's important to have an organizational account and not use your personal account because it looks way less professional. So you use your organizational account. Usually we prefer to email them. We essentially outline who we are first, then we outline the event to be like more specific rather than just be like, oh, hey, do you want to partner with us like randomly? And then we outline how many followers we have and what they can gain from partnering with us. And the last day, we don't refer to it as like a sponsorship. We refer to it as like, oh, do you want to partner? Because it really is a partnership. It's like a symbiotic relationship in the sense that you're giving us donations and we're giving you exposure. So I would say really emphasize on the exposure they give. Also, it's helpful to get a sponsorship package, just outlining what your organization is and what it does. And yeah, just be really like polite in your diction. And I also think that calling is more effective than emailing if you are able to call your local business.
Oh, okay, thank you. That was really interesting to know this about all the things that Teen Arts Council has been doing. Oh yes, and we have a question from Zach. For each Teen Arts Council member, what are some types of art you've all been making during these past few months? And I think we can start with Andrew, since he's next on my list.
well, I'm personally I do pencil and paper and some ink. I tried to do digital for a while. I can't. It is not good. But I do a lot of pencil and paper art, so I've just been doing a lot of drawing in my free time.
Oh, that's good. I think remember I tried doing digital once, and like you, I don't think it went well either. Next we have Nadia.
I've been working more on like improving my painting skills. I'm not the greatest painter, but I'm definitely trying to work on that to kind of amp up my skills. In school, we've been practicing with gouache, and then on my own, I've been working more with like watercolors and acrylic paints.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, watercolor is also a really fun paint to just use around. Next we have Kimberly.
So far I've been working on my writing, unsuccessfully, but I'm trying to push myself too, from poetry, short story, novels, all of that jazz. I also really enjoy music, so I've been composing in my spare time, trying to work on compositions for bigger orchestras. I also have tried digital art. It's been going okay. But I'm trying to power through. But yeah.
Yeah, it's always good idea to power through, even if it seems like it's not good. Just keep powering through that art. Oh yeah, sorry. Also, Sharon.
Yeah, so unlike Kimberly, who does like every form of art imaginable, I mainly focus on writing. So I've just been focusing on my writing and like short stories and essays, particularly commentary on like recent events that have been happening over the past couple of years, has really fueled my 4 a.m. writing binges.
Oh, that's good. Thank you for sharing. I'm so sorry. The chat like reset, and then I'm trying to find where I last left off. Oh, okay, yeah. We have a question from Skylar for each teen council members. What's your favorite theme to plan events around? If you do have a theme, I guess we can start with Andrew again.
I personally really enjoyed our mental health event, and I feel like that has a lot of benefit in teens today. So I did enjoy planning one around that. So maybe we could do some more.
Yeah, I remember we did a mental health event, and we had like discussions and did some art making activities to help out with that. Next, I am Nadia.
We mainly focus on like one particular event, which is curating an exhibit. I mean, we do volunteers like opportunities too, but last year we did youth justice. So like we all like kind of like conversed about what we wanted to do for a topic. We all decided on youth justice. We wrote like we did everything that goes with curating a whole exhibit, and then we got to pick out different art from like around the region and like local schools. Sorry, I'm like mixing up my words. So that was really fun and interesting. I love being able to like converse and decide, and it was a lot. It was we had to make a lot of tough decisions, but in the end, it was all really fun.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Next we have Kimberly.
Yeah, I think as someone who really enjoys the aspect of teaching in that sense, I really enjoyed what we did last year for our workshops, being able to teach people different art forms and from calligraphy to bullet journaling, sketching, and origami even. I thought it was just really lots of fun to be able to, I guess, help people who maybe weren't so informed about these art forms and just teach them some new things. So I guess I really like planning around those.
Oh, that's really cool. Thank you. And I think we have Sharon next.
Yeah, so I also agree that teaching is something that's really interesting and also something that I personally also like am passionate about. But for me, I definitely think that Solstice was my favorite event of last year. Just seeing the collaboration between the two councils and just seeing all the work that we put into it manifest itself into like this one night of just like a semi-formal, seeing everyone enjoy themselves was really fulfilling.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite parts of events is just seeing like people enjoying the event we planned and seeing them just going through all the activities. Um, okay, another question. I'm not sure if it was for the participants or the Teens Council, but are there any music lovers? I guess you could give some of your music taste. I guess we could start backwards. Sharon.
Yeah, I don't personally compose music the way that Kimberly does, or any of you other people do, but I definitely say that I really appreciate music and I listen to it for like 10 hours a day. So yeah, I can't live without music.
Oh dang, that's actually really impressive. For like 10 hours.
Not impressive in a good way.
Next we have Kimberly.
Yeah, you probably could tell, but I am quite a bit of a music lover. I feel like I've always been born with music. It's just I don't think I've ever remembered a day where it hasn't been a part of my life. I'm not as cool as Sharon and listen to music 10 hours a day. I mean, I do listen to my brother play piano like 10 hours a day, but yeah, music has been a huge part of my life. I love it so much. I don't know how I'd be where I am without it. But yeah.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like music is definitely like a really important part of your life. And oh yeah, next we have Nadia.
Usually when well, actually, when I like am working on art pieces and stuff, I get focused into it when I'm listening to music, and I just can go on for hours and hours doing that. I also have experience with an orchestra, like my school's orchestra. I play both upright bass and cello. So
Oh, that is really cool. You played two instruments at once too.
yeah.
And finally we have Andrew.
Yeah, I listen to music frequently, and I also play French horn for my school. So yeah, I do. It is a big part of my life.
Oh, that's good to hear. We do have some music lovers in this presentation. Oh, we have a question from Tasneem for each teen council member. What was your favorite memory together with your council? And I think we'll start with Andrew.
Oh, I really enjoyed when we took a tour around the contemporary section of the DIA to get pictures for Instagram. That was pretty fun.
Oh yes, I remember that. I think one of our pictures was also in the slideshow. I believe. I'm not sure about that, but next we have Nadia.
I think one of my favorites is like when we were in the actual part of the museum where we were able to view the art, and we were doing like kind of like a practice like exercise where we would look at an art and then create a story around that art using like kind of like different like acting forms, and like we had to go really quick, and they were really fun and funny too, so it was a good time talking about and trying, because we only had like 10 minutes in order to figure it out, so it was very rushed, but it was exhilarating too, so that was really fun.
That does sound really fun, and honestly, I think it's something I kind of want to ask my teen council to try out too.
Yeah, no, definitely do it. It's so fun.
And next we have Kimberly.
This is, I wouldn't say I'd call it a social, but there was this once we were planning for solstice. Sharon already knows. And we were planning for solstice, and basically we had this whole like a couple hours worth together creating pasta for the event. It was very chaotic, but it was also a very fun, like a good bonding time with everyone. And it's definitely a memory that's been implemented into our minds. And yeah, it was lots of fun.
Nice. That's good to hear. Sounds like solstice was definitely like a big event that you guys planned. Also, finally we have Sharon.
Yeah, so I was going to say my favorite memory is also making pasta. Basically, for solstice, we had to serve food, but we didn't buy the food, we made it ourselves. But none of us really knew how to cook, so we were all just like being chaotic around our friend's kitchen. And then we put the pasta sauce into like thermoses, and then we mixed the pasta on site. Yeah, it's funny. 10 out of 10 pasta would recommend. Oh my god. Yeah, it was really chaotic, but it was a good bonding experience. And I dropped red pasta sauce all over my white shoes. That was not good. This time was, I also want to mention another experience. Basically, we had to volunteer for this drive-in movie, and then it started like lightning storming in the middle of an open field. So yeah, we kind of felt like we were going to die. So that was that was like our first like in-person experience with our new team like this year. So that was definitely like a A1 bonding experience. You can't really surpass that for your first experience, just being completely drenched in a field where lightning is happening.
Pasta and thunderstorms always great bonding experience.
How about we do 2 more questions, Hillary?
Okay. A question from Alex. What's your favorite subject to create art about? And then, I don't know if this counts as a question, but Rupa's asking, Nadia, could you play the cello for us?
Oh, I actually have stopped playing cello. I used to be like into instruments, and then like my interests have changed where I'm now focused more towards more like drawing and painting and stuff. But maybe like 3 years ago.
Unfortunately, Rupa, I think you're a few years late, unfortunately.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Oh yeah, and then back to Alex's question, what's your favorite subject to create art about? I guess we start with Andrew again.
Yeah. I actually like to create a lot of my art centered around nature. I have diagrammed plants, and I actually enjoy doing that a lot because plants and art are my 2 big passions. So I like to mold them both.
That's really cool to hear. Okay, next we have Nadia.
I have kind of discovered about myself that I'm really influenced by the artist Georgia O'Keeffe. You may have heard of her. If not, you should totally look her up. I love her art. She focuses more around like landscapes and then like animal skulls and flowers. So that's really cool. And then I have also like kind of delved into the world of like Greek mythology, more specifically like Circe, which you may have heard of. You probably know her. She's like in the Odyssey, and then like I create kind of pieces like incorporated with her and stuff, like kind of like envision her character. So yeah.
Oh yeah, Greek mythology is definitely a cool subject to make art about. I think next we have Kimberly.
Yeah. I think I really enjoy philosophy and the deep thinking aspect of life, the wonders of the world kind of thing. So I usually channel that particular area whenever I'm like writing stories, poems, or creating compositions. So yeah.
Well, that's just really cool. I'm also kind of curious to see like what philosophy-inspired art would look like. And finally, we have Sharon.
Yeah, so Kimberly and I are kind of the same person. So my interests also converge in like philosophy and like sort of like sociology and life principles. Recently, I feel like what's going on in the world around me really affects like what manifests into my writing. So I was definitely saying recently I've been writing like social commentary on like current social issues and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. This is really cool too. And also like so like a little bit like impactful, just like going into like real world issues and
Yeah, and then I blog about them on like business conference websites about like, oh, the future of diversity and like the workforce, et cetera, stuff like that.
ooh, this is cool.
And this can be our last question, Hillary.
Okay, we have one last question. How was it when you guys first met? Like, was it awkward or nah? I guess we can start with Sharon again, just because her smile. I feel like that's a good story.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, basically, like when I meet someone, I'm like, I'm either like really quiet or I'm like, hi, nice to meet you. Do you want to hear my whole life story? So that was kind of like my impression upon first walking to the MTAC room because I knew someone from my school. So I was just like, okay, I'm going to talk to you. And then after I talked to them, I just talked to everyone. So it wasn't super awkward, I think, for me. But like, I definitely think like with a virtual team, it's important to have icebreakers to like sort of break the awkwardness tension at first.
Oh, okay. Well, it's good to know though. Like, it wasn't that y'all like kind of new people, so it wasn't like as awkward. The next we have Kimberly.
Yeah. I also, when I first went into Markham Teen Arts Council, I knew quite a bit of people. They were from my old school. So to some extent, it was a little bit awkward because I haven't seen them in many years. And to some extent, it wasn't because at least I knew people. But generally speaking, like all the people on the team were very nice, friendly people, such as Sharon. So I guess, yeah, I was really lucky to have them as my team members.
Wow, thing. Okay.
Yeah, I was really lucky, so it wasn't really that awkward at all. Eventually, like I feel like they're my family now, so it's quite nice.
Well, it's good to hear you guys all like bonded together, became one big giant family.
Mhm.
Next we have Nadia.
Well, kind of unlike you guys, I knew no one. It was all from different schools like around Everson, but I was the only one from my school, our high school. So that was a little tough at first, but it kind of pushed me to open up and talk to more people and go out of my way and go kind of like out of my comfort zone, which I think has definitely helped me in my own personal growth, and I think is good to experience that. So it was awkward at first, but I think it's kind of a good learning lesson.
Yeah. And I'll just answer the last one for us. I also didn't know anybody going in, and it wasn't really all that awkward. I mean, I walked in the room and I had no idea where I was going or if this was even the right room. But
Same.
no, it wasn't that awkward. There were already about 10-ish people there that had already joined, and was just starting. So they all knew each other and they welcomed me in, and I was really appreciative of that.
Oh yeah, sorry, I think I got like kicked out for a bit, but also
But
honestly, I almost forgot like you joined a little few days late because honestly, I think at this point we've all kind of like had spent a lot of time together and had a lot of time to bond.
yeah,
And I think that was our last question for the Q&A panel. Thank you guys for coming and answering all our participants' questions. And I think, yeah, and it was really cool just like hearing all of your experiences and hearing like with different perspectives. Hopefully, the participants got all their questions answered and learned a lot more about the teen councils for our annual summit.
Yeah.
yeah.
So before we go into the break, can I just like briefly interject? I would love to take like a boomerang or like a photo and post it on the MTAC story. So do you guys want to like pose so we can just be like,
Yes, yes.
okay, let me just take one. I might mention my phone is kind of slow, so this might take like 2 minutes. Really, wait, do you want to take one? Because your phone's probably better quality than mine.
I have no idea how to do them. I'm an old granny.
Bro,
Technology is not my thing.
take a boomerang. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna take the boomerang now, so feel free to move your fingers or like yourself. Okay, 1, 2, 3. This is the nature of a virtual conference. All right, thank you guys so much.
All right. Yeah, thank you guys. And now we're just going to move into our 5-minute break. All right, so that just about wraps up our break. We are now going to move on to the Kahoot. You can access this by either from the Kahoot app or from www.kahoot.it and enter the game pin that's in the top right. We'll wait just about a minute and a half just to make sure that everybody that wants to get in can get in. It's great to see all of you guys joining. All right, here we go with the Treasures of the Detroit Institute of Arts Kahoot. First up, what art movement does this self-portrait fall under? Pop art, constructivism, modern art, or impressionism? This self-portrait falls under the pop art movement. So far, we have Hill in the lead. The next question, which artist painted this reimagining of a popular 18th century portrait? Was it Sidney James, Tyree Guyton, I apologize if I'm saying these wrong, Alvin Loving, or Candy Wiley? I probably said that wrong. All right, this reimagining of the 18th century portrait was painted by Candy Wiley. And we still have Hill in the lead, but Kimberly's catching up. Next question, this 18th century Moore jar can be found in which gallery at the DIA? Either the Korean gallery, the Native American galleries, the Chinese gallery, or the Dutch gallery. This one can be found in the Korean gallery. Hillary is still in the lead. Kimberly's itching ever closer. Oh, I'm going to say this wrong. Yeah, I'm not even going to try. What happens in the upper right-hand corner? Is it wrestling, sitting, message delivery, or playing instruments? It can be found that playing instruments is happening in the upper right-hand corner. Next question. This famous French sculptor is known for his work with bronze, such as The Thinker. Is it Kiki Smith, Jean-Antoine Houdon, Auguste Rodin, or Henri Matisse? And again, I apologize if I just ruined every one of those names. And it is Auguste Rodin. Now, next question. Romare Bearden created this piece, Stamping Ground, using which technique? Paper collage, pointillism, stained glass, or tiled mosaic? This piece was created with paper collage. Ooh, Hillary has been maintaining that lead. This wooden, sculpture from the Asante culture in West Africa is known as a fertility figure, a wooden weight, a funerary object, or a gong mallet. This sculpture is known as a fertility figure. Kelly Church wove this Anishinaabe treaty hat primarily from dried grasses, cotton cloth, or black ash tree. And I also apologize for any delay that you guys are seeing. It was woven from a black ash tree. First, the true or false. The DIA was the first public museum in America to own an artwork by Vincent van Gogh. This is true. We were the first public museum in America to own an artwork by Vincent van Gogh. Next question. This work was painted by one of few female artists who established herself in the 17th century Italy. It's either Edmonia Lewis, Andrea Sacchi, Rachel Roisich, and Artemisia Gentileschi. This painting was made by Artemisia Gentileschi. Next question. This painting was created by Pablo Picasso, Frida Kahlo, Salvador Dali, or Paul Gauguin. This painting was created by Pablo Picasso. The next question. The Detroit Industry Murals is most prominently depict which industry? Railroad, oil, automobile, or steel? This mural prominently depicts the automobile industry. If on view at the DIA, in which gallery would you most likely find this painting? Impressionism, Contemporary, American, or Dutch? You would most likely find this painting in the Impressionism gallery. Next question. This technique is called stained glass, watercolor, decoupage, or mosaic. This technique is called stained glass. And the next question, name this artist. Andy Warhol, Richard Est, or Mark Rothko. This artist was Mark Rothko. And here are our winners. In third place, Skylar with 11 out of 15. Second, Tasneem with 9 out of 15. And on top, Hillary with 10 out of 15. Congratulations, you guys. And at this time, we'll transition to the art making activity. Please be sure to grab your art making supplies, and Zach from the DIA's Studio Programs Department will be leading us through this part of our event. Hi, Zach.
Hey, Andrew. How's it going?
Oh, good. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Been enjoying the program so far.
Yeah, thank you.
So thanks for having me. My name is Zach Freeling. My title is Studio Coordinator at the DIA. I've been at the museum this is my 10th year, actually. And as studio coordinator, what I mostly do is a mixture of teaching classes and coordinating programs, public programs like in normal times are drop-in workshops, artist demonstrations, things like that. Teaching classes with school groups, different community groups, social service groups, all sorts of stuff. Group in those. And now since we've been, since the museum shut down, we have kind of transitioned into doing online programming, online classes, a lot of stuff with, Zoom classes with the VA or classes on Microsoft Teams with different groups. So that's a little bit what we're going to be doing today. We're going to start off looking at some art and doing a process called VTS, Visual Thinking Strategies, which is very conversational. It's mostly just asking a couple simple questions and really letting the viewer lead the talk. So we have Sadie and Hillary are going to help me out. And then you guys in the comments as well, we want to hear your thoughts too. And we'll just kind of talk for a little bit. We've got 3 pieces to look at, and then we'll get into some brainstorming, some planning for some watercolor postcards. So this is our first piece. Since there's a bit of a delay in the chat, feel free to start off right away, just telling us what do you see in this picture, what's happening here. And then I'll ask the same to Sadie and Hillary, if either of you want to start off with just what do you see here? What's happening?
So I see a person. It looks like they're writing something down. They're in a room that looks like it's pretty cluttered. Not much floor space happening. Maybe there's a path, but you can't really see it. So yeah, that's what I see.
Okay, so a person looks like they're writing something and just in a very cluttered room. Maybe there's a path, but if there is, we can't see it because there's just so much stuff there. Good. What more can we find?
I see. I see like a bunch of artwork and like the artwork, and at least for me, for some reason, it probably gives me a sense that he's doing like the homework assignment like 9 p.m. in the night.
Okay. What do you see that makes you say doing a homework assignment?
Oh, it's maybe just because I guess like from the distance, it looks like he's holding a pencil. He looks really tired.
Okay.
Like they slumped against the desk.
Okay. So the posture, they're slumped over the desk, holding that pencil that Sadie mentioned, writing something. Something about them looks tired. Maybe the posture. You guessed maybe it's like 9 p.m. night before something's due, working on some homework. Okay, good. What more can we find?
Like Hillary mentioned, I do see references to like other artwork. The Campbell's soup can was the first thing that I saw that I like recognized. So like I'm assuming that a lot of these are famous artworks like mixed in with the clutter.
Okay, so you noticed right off the bat the Campbell's soup can, which you're recognizing as a reference to a famous artwork. So you're kind of thinking a lot of the other clutter might be other famous artworks.
Oh wait, so I just wondered, where's the Campbell soup can? Because
So the Campbell's soup can is, I don't think you can see my cursor, but it's in the, I believe you're talking about in the window right here, kind of sitting on the ledge of the window.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really nice find. I didn't even notice that. Honestly, now that like Sadie mentions it, I feel like the statue like right in the middle of the guy like throwing something, I feel like that looks familiar as well.
The statue here right above the,
Like
right above
the
right in
green
the middle, basically. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so you're looking at that statue, and now that Sadie said these things might be famous artworks or familiar artworks, you're starting to maybe recognize other things.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, good. See in the comments, Rebecca says hi. Great. And yeah, feel free in the comments too. If you guys are seeing anything, noticing anything, feel free to write that. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep asking Sadie and Hillary what they see. Skylar says, the painting on the left with the gray, green, blue squares looks familiar to me as well. So some other familiar objects. He's holding something in his other hand, like maybe for reference, if he's making art, I'm going to guess that that's what they mean. So we discussed he's writing something with the right hand, left hand maybe holding something, maybe for reference. Everson Education says, yes, that painting looks like a Rothko. Everson Education, what about it reminds you of a Rothko? And we'll wait, there might be a delay. Okay, so starting to recognize a few more familiar things here. And also shift from maybe he's doing homework to maybe he's working on art, or maybe it's art as homework. Everson Education, yes, that painting looks like a Rothko. Sadie and Hillary, have you seen this painting in person?
Yes, I have. I think it's upstairs. Yeah, I've seen it before. It's massive.
Yeah, which it's a really different seeing it so small on YouTube here compared to, I would say it's probably 20 feet long, if not bigger. It kind of takes up the whole wall. So it's really great to see in person. I really would recommend it if you get a chance, because just all those little details and things just really pop out, and you can really spend a long time looking at it. And Everson Education added the colors, the way the rectangles are arranged on the canvas regarding that square painting kind of right in the center. Anything else look familiar to you too, Sadie or Hillary? Or in the comments? Rupa says, oh, wow.
I feel like the masks on the table, I feel like I've probably like seen that in the DIA before, something similar to it.
Okay.
I'm not sure like if it's familiar or if I just find it cute, but like there's a panda under the table that I noticed.
Okay, so you mentioned a couple things. The masks on the table kind of behind him reminds you of things you've seen at the museum or art objects possibly. And then below that, you mentioned this panda kind of, again, right behind the figure. And not sure if that's something, familiar in terms of something you'd see in a museum, but something you recognize as, something cute, a cute panda. And Rupa says, is there a money cat in front of the window? I think they're talking about right next to the soup can there. Looks like what Rupa recognizes as a money cat. Another comment, I noticed that you can see through his window into the night. You can see other lights in windows. So that kind of goes with, I think Hillary earlier said, looked like she guessed it was like 9 p.m. maybe, nighttime. Yeah, we can see out a little bit, out see another building. Tells you a little bit about the space that this room is located in maybe. Good observations here. We'll take maybe one or two more now that we've sat with it for a little bit. Sade says, I think the white crosses on the golden background on the lower left-hand side reminds me of symbols I've seen in the Native American gallery. Okay, so right, lower left there, we see those white crosses on gold. Remind Sade of imagery from the Native American gallery. So again, other things we maybe have seen from in the museum, which Rupa echoes, saying this makes me think this is someone in a room in the DIA. So possibly this could be a room in a museum. Maybe they're organizing these artifacts. That could get back into, we've talked about, are they doing artwork? Are they doing homework? Maybe they're doing some kind of organizing. I think that might be, unless Sadie or Hillary, if you have any final thoughts, that might be a good spot to move on. We've spent just under 10 minutes on this one. It really flies once you get talking. And normally with VTS, we would just say thanks and move on. But I do like with this one to share a little bit about the painting. This is, you can see the title there, which popped up a little early. This is an artist named Hernan Bass, who actually has been based out of Detroit on and off, had a studio here for a bit, but really shows all over the world. This is from 2018, so it's a pretty recent painting. I would say in terms of the museum, this is one of the more recent acquisitions. We're talking about a museum where there's items that are thousands, hundreds of years old, and this one was just made pretty recently. And the title of this one is Sorting Out Andy. Sadie or Hillary, does that give you any clue more about what this might be about?
Or is it maybe about like, okay, this might be a stretch, but I maybe think of like Andy Warhol and like how he did like pop culture references.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the story of this painting, which Sadie, I think that was one of the first things we mentioned, was this Campbell's soup can, which is something Andy Warhol utilized quite a bit. The story of this painting is this is a depiction of Andy Warhol's apartment, and the character in it was a employee of the Sotheby's auction house who was doing inventory of all of the art objects and just all the objects in general, things, paintings, statues, artifacts, but also cookie jars, stacks of magazines, old cameras, all sorts of just little things that he collected. So that's the story of this. And when you see it in person, you can really see more clues to that. The object in his left hand looks like a wig. There's a banana peel or a banana on the pencil, which is a nod to another one of his pieces of work. There's the soup can. So yeah, so it's a huge painting. It's great. There's so much to look at. It's really fun looking at it with. This is one I always like to take tours to, because they'll make that connection of seeing things that we've walked by, or later in the museum, they'll say, oh, that painting looks like this one, or, it's very fun. So with that, let's move on to the next one. Next slide. And here we have a photo. So let's just take a moment to look at this one. And again, in the comments, and Sadie and Hillary, just what's happening in this picture? What do you see?
It looks like, I can't see very well because my eyes aren't great and the computer is pretty small. but it looks like some elderly people in a park, and there's a woman with an accordion. Yeah, and they're sitting on benches, and they're all kind of. It doesn't look like any of them are really talking to each other, but rather they're all kind of watching that person play.
Okay, so to you it looks like maybe some elderly people and what looks like a park, and you notice the one in the middle is kind of playing an accordion, and you don't think that they're talking to each other. They just kind of seem to be looking, watching, observing. Okay. Hillary, what do you see?
I see. I can't really tell if like the distance, if that's a lake or like just like a plane, but to me it kind of looked like a lake at first.
Okay.
I also see like one guy. I can't tell if he's like looking at the camera or like just looking at the distance, but I see like one guy on the right is just like kind of glancing towards the camera person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really sure how, like camera like photography was in 1970s. I don't know if it's like instant or like it took some time to like photograph. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so you're noticing a little bit more about the setting, which Sadie said looked like a park, and you're adding that there's this kind of flat area in the mid background that looks like maybe a lake or a body of water, and you're noticing the same thing Skylar just noticed in the comments, that one of the men on the bench is looking at the camera, kind of going to what Sadie was saying about they're not really talking to each other. Some are looking at the accordion player. The man in the hat here to the right, yeah, he does seem to be turned and looking at the photographer, or at least in that general direction, kind of, off the picture plane. Good. What more can we find?
Similar to the man with the hat, the woman sitting closest to the woman with the accordion also seems to be looking at the camera, or at least in that general direction.
Okay, so noticing that the woman, next to the accordion also seems to be looking either at the camera, the photographer, or off, maybe past the cameraman. Okay, good. What more do we notice? Hillary?
Oh, this is really something I noticed. But I kind of wondered if like the photographer was just like photographing random people in the park, or like if the people like already kind of agreed to be photographed.
Okay. Are you leaning one way or the other, or what do you see that might make you think one or the other?
To be honest, I'm kind of leaning towards like these random people, because I feel like that's a lot of people to ask to like gather at once. And also just because they're kind of looking at the cameraman like, what are you doing? So.
Okay, so kind of asking whether or not this was sort of a planned, like model photo shoot versus just sort of a candid photographer saw these people in the park and thought he would snap a picture of them. You think it's a lot of people, seems like they might have just gathered organically, and kind of just based on the way they're posing, the way they're not really, they're not posing like a school group photo or something. And that could maybe tell a little bit about why those two are looking at the cameraman, like maybe they're a little surprised or unsure about what's going on. Skylar says, it doesn't seem staged to me, honestly. So agreeing that it doesn't seem staged, that it just seems like maybe a natural hangout at the park. Good. What more can we find? I keep leaning into the camera to look closer, and then I see my face getting giant in the screen. This is another one that seeing it, there's a lot of small details in it that are harder to see. The DIA itself says the two people all the way to the left seem younger. What about them makes you think they might be younger? Or Hillary and Sadie, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was thinking that as well in the beginning. That's why I said some elderly people.
Okay.
But their faces aren't really turned to the camera, so I couldn't really tell.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. You did say at the beginning, you said some elderly people, not all elderly people. And in the comments, they added the coat and the hair. So yeah, something about the fashion, the style doesn't quite match the other handful of folks there. So maybe it's a mix of people from different generations.
Or in something I think I noticed was like some people on the left were like staring, and maybe some of the guys on the right, I can't tell, but like staring at this person in the distance was like has his like right hand. I think he's waving or something. Or they could also be looking at the accordion, but I can't really.
Okay, so a couple things more about the line of sight, where people are looking, where people are paying attention. And you're noticing this smaller figure kind of off into the distance, right between the man with the hat and the accordion woman. And yeah, they're kind of waving maybe, and maybe people are looking off that way at this person, but noticing a much smaller figure there. All right, good. All right, any final thoughts on this one? If not, we can move on. Yeah, so the info popped up. This is Bill Rauhauser, who is a Detroit photographer, and the title of this is, as you can see, is Belle Isle. Yeah, so both of your assumptions, that it was in a park near water, were spot on. Yeah, 1970s, printed in, around 2000. So yeah, this is one of the nice, it's been challenging not being in the museum, obviously, but one of the interesting kind of surprise benefits has been, as we're looking for art to show to our classes and our groups, we're not bound to just what's on the walls and what's in the galleries. We've been really digging into the archives, even just on the website. You can go to dia.org and search the collection, and you can type in photography, or you can type in impressionism, or you can type in specific artists, and someone like Bill Rauhauser is a Detroit photographer, and just hundreds of results come up. And he did a lot of this just kind of candid people on the street type photography, covering, he was busy right up until he passed 3 or 4 years ago. So there's just decades of photography really covering the history of the city. And it's really pretty amazing, because photographs can't be on display at the museum. They're more sensitive. They can't be on display for too long, I should say. And there's just so many, there's not room. So it's been really kind of fun finding pieces like this, and, showing different groups, and everyone has different relations to it, different experiences they can relate to it. People have been to Belle Isle, people have been to gatherings like this, people recognize, their grandparents or great grandparents dressed this way. It's been kind of fun. I know we had some music lovers earlier we were talking about. Maybe some of you play accordion, I don't know. But yeah, it's been fun looking at photographs. That said, let's go to our last picture here. So we'll pause right here. Yeah. So this will be our last one we look at. And let's, same, the drill by now, just what's happening in this picture. What do you see?
This gives off like the early morning vibes, just like the shadows.
The shadows make you think of early morning? Okay.
It looks like it's overlooking some city, but that looks like a church in the distance. And then I'm gonna assume that this is Detroit, based on the city in the background. I don't know for sure, but that would be my guess.
Okay. So you're, it's overlooking a city. You're noticing a church kind of in the mid background, and then a city skyline further in the background, and not sure, but you're guessing it's maybe Detroit, but it seems like you're not seeing any positive evidence of that, but your hunch is that it's Detroit. Okay. Some comments I'm seeing. I think the picture is taken from a rooftop or a top floor window, Tasneem says, kind of getting at that point of view, the overlooking that Hillary mentioned. Alex says you can see a city skyline in the background. So agreeing with Sadie there that we see some a real skyline, some taller buildings. Skylar also says it's a very realistic painting. Tasneem says, I think it's a suburb that connects to downtown. What about it makes you think it might be a suburb, Tasneem? And while we're waiting, we can just keep looking. Any more thoughts, Sadie and Hillary, as you've looked at it for a bit more? Oh, and Tasneem says because of the houses. So we see kind of a mix of these tall, very urban buildings in the background, and then maybe more like suburban style houses in the front, but still close to the city.
I see some industrial sites in the background with the smoke and like the chimneys, I guess would be the word. So yeah, that's kind of what I see further, even like further from the city.
Okay, so we've talked about the kind of the houses. Tasneem added maybe the church is the community church. We've talked about the buildings, the kind of urban setting in the background. But you're adding kind of on both sides, really, we see a mix of some industrial looking landscape, some chimneys, some smokestacks, I see some water towers. So it's kind of adding to that mix of different types of buildings, different types of cityscape.
Yeah, and, I'm not sure this is really significant or not, but like I noticed that the corners are for this one are like rounded instead of like a perfect rectangle. And that's I kind of gave off the sense of like that it kind of looked to me like a photograph, sort of like using one of those like oldish cameras, just because it's just the vibes it kind of gave off.
Okay, so a little bit about not so much the content of the painting, but the actual structure of it, I guess you could say. That, yeah, the corners seem to be rounded, or at least appearing to be rounded, and that reminds you a bit of an old photograph, which maybe could kind of adds to the sense of time or place with this one, maybe. Good, yeah, good observation for sure. That's something. This is actually another one I've never seen in real life, so I'm not sure how those corners look in person, but it is interesting that our image we have, it's rounded like that. All right, anything more that we notice? What's going on in this one? Hillary?
I guess this is more like a personal thing. I feel like the shadows are just really satisfying to look at. Like, this is really crisp.
Which part was really satisfying?
Honestly, this is shadows because like the lines are really crisp. And just I don't know, they're just cool to look at. Yeah,
that's a great observation. The shadows. Do you mean especially here, like this house in kind of the front? And then under the tree here, it's really crisp shadows. And then the on the rooftop here, I've noticed too on the actually on the house, just you really get a good sense of dimension. Really crisp lines, which I think adds to that realism. It's very architectural almost, the way these houses and buildings are rendered. Great. Well, I think we can move on to the next one. So this was an artist named James Calder, and this is St. Anne's from the Bridge is the title. Does that I mean, that's a pretty big clue. So St. Anne's is the church, the big church that's still standing in Southwest Detroit today. And the bridge it's referring to is the Ambassador Bridge, which, goes from Detroit to Canada. So this is a painting we stumbled on, and I was just curious, we looked at this painting a few times, and that's an area I've driven through and biked through quite a bit. And I thought, it sure doesn't look like that now. So I went on to Google Street View, which you can put your Google Street View person right onto the bridge, which is kind of crazy, but found somewhat of a similar view. The church, I think, matches up pretty well, but you can really see how different things are there. I mean, Hillary or Sadie, what do you notice right off the bat that's different? Or anyone in the comments?
There's no longer that like large amount of housing. Yeah, that's the biggest difference I see immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there, like, I think there was also less trees, and there's also a giant pole.
There's a giant pole there. I think that was a light post on the bridge that I couldn't get around. But so that maybe that was there in the original, or they just avoided it. But yeah, the amount of trees is different. A lot less houses. Tasneem adds, looks like only the sky and church still look the same. Yeah, so quite a bit is different. The buildings, it's hard to kind of tell, and the perspective isn't quite off, but a lot of the big buildings in the background downtown still match up. One notable thing is the Renaissance Center wasn't built yet, which is, one of the big landmarks on the skyline. But it's also interesting, all these smokestacks and water towers and things, aren't along, especially to the right, which is the riverfront now, aren't there anymore, which is, I don't know, just, to me, it's just really interesting seeing the change of industry and, all this stuff by the bridge is all transportation, shipping stuff, but then by the waterfront, that industry's gone, and now that's more recreation things, the Riverwalk and parks and things like that. So it's just interesting, which I think I wanted to show this to all of you as we're talking about painting postcards and painting places and mailing people postcards. I thought this was a great example of how, even more so than a photograph, a painting can really, give an impression of a place, really cement a place in time, along with the last two paintings looked at that are all kind of, I don't know, there's just an interesting sense of nostalgia. And that last one with people of different generations being at Belle Isle, which is a place that still exists today. And the one before that with the collection of things. Yeah, so let's move on to the next slide, and we're going to get into our art making portion for a bit now. So yeah, watercolor paintings. I heard that many of you have been mailed some watercolor postcards and some watercolor sets. If you have those now and want to get them out and paint along, this isn't going to be quite, like a Bob Ross thing or something. So if you're not painting now, that's okay. You can just listen. We're going to show some pictures. I'm going to talk a bit, and you can always take that information and paint later. If you have any comments, questions at any point, feel free to say them in the chat. And thanks, Sadie and Hillary. I feel like I put you on the spot there a little bit, but you had some great observations, great things to say about those pieces. So thank you. So this is a watercolor and graphite pencil and colored pencil piece of the DIA of the museum. This is one I found in the collection, but I thought it was just an interesting, interesting watercolor painting. It's very tight. It's very good. We can move on to the next one and just click once. We'll leave the titles for a second. So here's a couple more I found in the collection that are just, I thought, just two really fun examples of watercolor paint and just two pretty different styles. The one on the left is very loose, very almost abstract. And the one on the right is a little more, you can kind of really see what's going on there. You can see the rocks, the trees, the buildings in the background, but it's still, still pretty playful, pretty impressionistic, not a ton of realism there. And one thing that was interesting about these ones, can you click once more? But yeah, so this is interesting to me, the dates that these were done. The one on the left was done in 1991. So again, in the scheme of things, pretty recently. And the one on the right was done in 1916. So it's really interesting to me how modern this one looks, the use of the watercolor when it's over 100 years old. I thought that was just kind of neat. So, think about that as you're planning your postcard. It doesn't need to look, that last one, the St. Anne's from the Bridge, we commented how it was very realistic. The shadows, angles, and everything were all spot on. But think about how, with your postcard, it doesn't have to be exactly like a photograph. You can think more about the feeling of a place, or, think more about using colors emotionally. Let's click to the next one. I've got a couple more examples here. So these are just a few more that I found in the collection that really have very different styles, all using watercolor paint, but all very different, from, somewhat realistic but still very blocked out, to a heavy emphasis on lines in the bottom right, to something totally more abstract in the top right, which I think is still, if you want your postcard to look like that, mail it to someone, that's great. It's a very fun painting. So let's click once more. So here's the artist of these. And you can see, again, quite a range of years here. The one in the bottom right, over 100 years old. The one above that from the 30s, which I think looks really, really quite modern. And the one on the left is from the 70s. So yeah, just 3 nice examples. I don't know the size of these, but to me, they look like they could be, postcards, just like we're going to make. So let's click through once more. So these are just some, we call them motivating questions, some prompts to help get some ideas going. And if you have an answer to any of these and want to throw it in the chat, that would be great, because it's often good to brainstorm as a group. Usually with our classes, we'll ask these questions as a group. And a lot of the time, your answer might trigger something in someone else to make them think of something, and it can just kind of ricochet around, and it could be a really good way to come up with ideas. So I'm curious, you all probably came into this at least with a loose plan of making a postcard that you're going to mail to someone. So I'm wondering, what are you going to put on your postcard? Are you going to put some place that's meaningful to you on the postcard? And also, who are you going to mail your postcard to? Are you planning to mail it to maybe someone you haven't been able to see in the past 7 months? Maybe a family member, maybe a friend, maybe someone out of state. And then, thinking about, when you paint your postcard, are you going to paint it from life? Are you just going to set up by your window, go out to a park on a day like today? Are you going to use a photo, or just paint it from memory? Maybe you're just going to kind of think of the general idea or feel of a place and think about what colors you might want to use. And then last question on there, I'm going in a weird order. Last question on there, what colors can you use to convey meaning or emotion? That's something that kind of came up in those 2 of the paintings we looked at, an early morning feel, a nighttime before homework's done feel, just by using, the color of the sky, time of day, obviously, but also think about how you can use colors another way. What colors would you use for a happy postcard? What colors would you use for a thoughtful postcard? Anything like that. So if you have answers to any of these, I would love to hear in the chat what you're thinking, or what you might want to make your postcard about. And I'm seeing some comments in the other chat about the paintings looked at. And sorry, I missed those, Gwen and Andrew. But yeah, I believe the church is off of Fort Street. Okay, Hillary says, I like to use blue for calmness, or maybe sadness, and reds for energy or anger. Great answer. Andrew, earlier too, I liked when you said that you like to focus a lot of your artwork on nature, and you've done a lot of plant diagrams. That's something too that can be great for, your postcard. Well, while folks are maybe typing up what their meaningful places might be, or who you might want to mail one to, or even if it's not who, you don't have to answer positively right now, but just some ideas of who you could mail it to, or what a place might be. I'm just going to kind of show some of the materials I have here. So I've got a few watercolor sets. This is my small mobile one. I've had this for probably 10 years. I just swap out the paints inside when they run out. And I take this with me. I'll throw it in my bag with some water, and just, take my little sketchbook and just paint wherever. Sade says, because of the images you shared, I feel inspired to paint Belle Isle. Lots of blues and greens for nature and serenity. That's great. I wanted to share a few. I just got a stack. I don't even think we talked about this when Sade asked me to do this, but I've been painting watercolor postcards since March, and mailing them to friends, mailing them to, people that live in Detroit, California, whatever. And I've just been, taking my sketchbooks around and painting, when I go to the beach or to the park, or I've been reflecting old photographs from my, when I could travel out of town, and I would go to places like, this was in a park in Portland, going and, painting wherever. This was just some trees I saw in Corktown. Also just having fun with the paints and not even thinking about painting a specific place, and just doing some, color experiments, trying out, seeing how things blend together. Skylar says, I would probably send it to one of my friends who just moved to Canada for college. I'd want to paint a cafe where we used to spend a lot of time together. That's great. That's a great idea. Something meaningful like that, that's not just important to you, but important to the person you're going to send it to. Mine, for example, I was trying to think of what I might paint today, and my mom posted a picture on Instagram from a hike she was on, and I thought it was a really lovely picture of a park, and I don't even know where she was. But so I started to sketch it out a bit, which is probably hard to see. So I started to sketch that out a bit, which you can start off drawing with pencil if you want, or you can just dive right in and paint. I'm guessing a lot of you have used watercolor before, so you probably know about, getting, I'm going to tilt my camera just a little bit. So about, getting your brush wet, getting your paints wet. And I'm just going to take, I don't know, just do a little bit real quick here. I'm not going to paint the whole thing. We're just going to get some blue here, really water it down. The more water you add, the less pigment, the lighter it's going to be. I'm just going to kind of do a wash on the background, real light. Then I'm going to wash my brush and just do kind of a brush or a wash of this, I don't know, this ochre kind of color in the trees. This fall color for these trees is really nice. So I'm just kind of putting in some colors wherever. And, I have the photo for this, but I'm not too concerned with matching the photo exactly. I'm just going to kind of put some colors down, and I'll, do what it will. One of my favorite techniques is something called the wet on wet technique, where I've got all my wet yellowish on here, and then when I take some green, just by dabbing it in there, it's just going to kind of naturally move around and let the water do its thing. So I'm going to add in some greens, add in some reds, just, do nice fall colors. This time's really great for painting leaves, painting trees. So you can kind of see what's going on there, I hope. And I'll deal with this more later. I'm just kind of rushing through it now. And my greens and reds are getting really murky, so I probably should have let one of them dry. But another technique I wanted to show, something that's really fun that we do a lot with classes, is just using crayons. And this is something that we'll do with, second graders. We'll do it with adults. And just using crayons, a wax resist technique. I just went around my apartment and found some interesting textures and just kind of laid down the side of a crayon. So now I've got this kind of green texture there. And you can see I started a little bit. And you've probably done this before, like you draw your name with a white crayon or like with Easter eggs or something. But then, when you paint on top of the wax, that crayon area will stay. So I've got these greens popping through. I was just up in the Upper Peninsula last week where the leaves were all really crazy in a million different colors. So I was just kind of thinking about that when I started this, just how I can mix these warm colors, but with some green still popping through. So again, I don't think I could focus on, really doing a painting while talking to you guys. So I'm just kind of throwing some colors down and just having fun with it, which sometimes that's how, the best stuff turns out anyways. So you can kind of see the effect it's getting. And I'm just going to let it drip a bit. I don't even mind holding it up, keeping it away from my keyboard. But then I'll just let that dry, and, maybe that'll turn into something. Comment from Nadia here. The images shown inspired me to paint a local scene that's meaningful to me. That's also a big part of Syracuse's community. I plan on sending it to my sister that's out of state. That's great. So another thing that's meaningful to you, as well as your sister, something that, you can send her. And that seems like the most classic example of a postcard of just, here's a thing that reminds me of you. Maybe you miss it. I miss you. It's great. Yeah. One other thing I like to do a lot with watercolors, I've got a bunch here. And these are the ones I haven't sent. The ones I like the most, I usually send away. But I always make sure to take pictures first. So I'm just going to hold up a few random ones, just, you know, I don't know. That's a palm tree I think I made to send to my parents because they're into like tropical things and Florida and whatnot. But one thing I like to do is after the paint is dry, go back in with pen and ink. You can see in here and just kind of taking a really fine point pen and making outlines, making hatch marks, making shading, or doing the same thing with color pencil with like Prismacolor works really well. And just kind of adding on top, adding outlines, adding, you know, scribbles, just kind of doing whatever, not keeping it to be just a painting, but really just using anything I have, whether it's oil pastel or crayon or marker, and just doing some more. Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm doing. And then I have my stamps here. I like going on the post office's website because you can choose what stamps you want, and you can get like Ellsworth Kelly stamps or Marvin Gaye stamps or whatever. And then it's almost too fun to, you know, they're almost too fun of stamps to mail them away, but it's great. Tasneem says, please share your wonderful creations on Instagram using hashtag DIA Teen Council. Make sure to do that. I'll do that as well when I finish one of these. And unless there's any questions, let's see, it's in the other chat. Unless there are any questions or comments, I think I'm going to throw it back to Andrew, and hopefully you guys have some good inspiration for your paintings. Hopefully you liked the art we looked at. Hopefully it inspires you to, you know, go look at some more art, whether it's on the DIA's website or your own local institution's website or your own local institution. And hopefully you know, do some painting. It's a nice day for it. I think after this, I might take one of my notebooks here and head outside myself and go sit in the park or something, or maybe go down to Belle Isle and maybe I'll run into Charday doing some painting. Yeah, so if there's not any questions, looks like, yeah, here's Andrew.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Zach. That was really awesome.
Thanks, Andrew.
With that, we have now concluded our art making activity, and therefore this is just about the end of the event. And please take all the time you need to create your watercolor. You can create it whenever you want. You can do it now, you can do it later. But if you do, feel free to share it on Instagram with the hashtag DIA Teen Council. And I also wanted to say a huge thank you to all the teen councils for participating, and to all of you for spending your afternoon with us. And one last thing, have a great rest of your day.